Hi everyone, my name is Erin Helyard and I'm thrilled to be returning to direct from the harpsichord the Australian Haydn Ensemble for their final concert this year. The Australian Haydn Ensemble is one of Australia's greatest period ensembles, and they're also one of the only ensembles investigating and presenting some of the best instrumental music from the 18th century. And I'm really thrilled about this particular concert because we're looking at repertoire from a really interesting period in music history. We're looking at two pieces by C.P.E. Bach from about the early 60s, 1760s that is, and then also two extraordinary symphonies from the early 1770s. It's a really interesting time in Europe, and it's one of my favourite couple of decades in the 18th century for a variety of reasons. There was a very bloody war that occurred in the middle of the century. We call that nowadays the 7 Years' War. It was a global war. Hundreds of thousands of people died, and Europe's borders were rearranged, and its economy changed drastically. As a result of this war, which concluded in the early 1760s, we see changes in the way musicians operated in Europe at the time. So what happens is there's a period of prosperity that follows the war, and the works that we're presenting in this final program reflect this extraordinary time before things went bad in the 1790s and fortunes went down. There were still house orchestras. People could afford orchestras, and they could afford music, and they could afford to buy the parts for symphonies and have them at home. And so two of the works that we're presenting today are really some of the great masterpieces of this period. One is what's used to be called the Little Symphony by Mozart, an A major symphony that was written for the court at Salzburg, but became a great favourite of Mozart's, and also one of the greatest symphonies of Haydn. I've always wanted to present this piece, and I'm so glad that Sky agreed to put this on in her program, and that's his 52nd Symphony in C minor. It's an extraordinary work, and if you love Haydn and you don't know this work, you'll absolutely adore this program. To round off the program, we have two works by one of the most influential composers of the 18th century, and that's C.P.E. Bach. They're from a slightly earlier period, but they reflect this new style that C.P.E. Bach was going through. He was such a great innovator in the 1760s, and indeed, it was these works that inspired people like Joseph Haydn and Wolfgang Mozart. The harpsichord concerto is an extraordinary piece. In many ways, it sounds to us like it's a Mozartian work. There's an extraordinary sense of dialogue between orchestra and soloists. And the symphony, the short symphony that opens our program, is a thrilling, rambunctious romp through E-flat major and different time signatures. So do come along to our final concert for this year. I'm thrilled to be back with the Australian Haydn Ensemble.